Alright, so this is my first video talking about my car project. And essentially, like any good programming project or any big complicated project, I wanted to try to break it down. And I want to make it something that's approachable, something that I can slowly build up tools and experience working with. And the biggest inconvenience with having a car that needs work is you can't move it around, you can't really easily transport it to a shop, or if someone else wants to see it. Even getting the car here in the garage is kind of a pain. I had to get a moving service to get it all the way out here from Ohio. So I thought the first step should be get it running. This way, if I want to get the body looked at and get estimates on work, or if there's spot jobs that need to get done, I can easily get the car there. And also get it driving quickly so it'd be a little more fun to work with. And also, if I can get the engine running, then I can begin to diagnose what issues there could be with the engine. So, first phase of the car project then is just to get it drivable at all. And I define this as essentially everything internally basically works in the vehicle. Coolant systems work, the engine runs, the brakes work, the clutch works. It doesn't have to look great. There'll probably be water leaks in the roof. It'll probably make weird noises, but I can sit in it, turn it over, move it along the road. And safety first is also something I'm considering. Any of these different parts I'm working on, I want to make sure that since I'm really by myself for a lot of this, I don't hurt myself. So the very first system I want to work on is the brakes, because almost anything else will eventually work to having the car running and potentially delivering power to the wheels. I want to make sure the brakes are solid, so that way there aren't any weird accidents or cars going through walls. So I'm breaking that down even farther. Then what I intend to do is first kind of see what I have. I know for a fact that the front and rear brakes are just shot. So note here, thanks Steve, as far as rebuilding the brakes goes. Prior to getting this car moved, I had a local mechanic in Pemberville take a look at the vehicle. The intent was to get brakes basically working and get tires changed on it to get it transported. And he noted that the front disc brakes and the rear drum brakes were just shot. They're done. So I've already ordered rebuild kits for both of those off the internet, and it's about $200 when it's all said and done. So I want to see what we have as far as brake lines go, get a feel for the layout and what I'm looking at, and also give me a chance to play around with some of the tools I just got. But otherwise, the first step is going to be replacing the drum brakes or replacing the disc brakes. After that, I also want to replace all the lines. This car had been sitting outside for a number of years. It had a car cover on it, but it was also partially over a lawn, and it was in northern Ohio, which means salt. So, it was actually in southern Ohio. Still, salt could happen. That's what happens when you're in the northern areas of the Northwest. So I don't trust any of the lines. I certainly don't want a brake line just popping on me while I'm driving it around town. So I'm just play it safe, replace everything. So I don't have anything yet, but I need to go shopping around and figure out where I can get the rigid brake lines that are going to run across most of the body. So replace those lines. Once that's all done, I'll obviously have to bleed the lines, make sure that there's no air in them. That'll be a good opportunity to also make sure the master cylinder for the brake system works. After that, there'll probably be some fine adjustment I need to do to the drums. I haven't worked with brakes at all before, but at least when I was reading, it looked like there's some nice adjustment nuts that I can set up just to get a feel for when I press the pedal down, how hard does it brake, and the Haynes manual I've got gives me enough information to let me know how to adjust that properly. So I'll be doing that once the system is basically there. And the very last thing is the e-brake, which is the emergency brake, the handle inside the vehicle. That's a mechanical override for the hydraulic system for the brakes, and it manually invokes the rear drums. Getting the car over here, the lever cranks up, the ratchet ratchets only once, and the brakes didn't fully engage. I don't know if that's a failure in the mechanism of the e-brake, or if that's just the fact that the drums are shot. It could just be the drums, and once I replace that, it's all good. But I'm gonna look it over and see if any of the cabling's rusted or anything, and I figure there's probably an 80% chance I'm just gonna order new parts and rebuild that as well. So that's what I'm planning on doing. I've ordered some, like I said, I ordered some parts that haven't come in yet, but I've also done a lot of local shopping just to get the basics that I need, and we'll take a look at that next. So I've done some shopping just because I'm starting to build my own shop essentially, and I don't have any tools. So what I've gotten for the brake project is firstly a tire iron just so I can get the tires off and I can get to the brakes. The lighting in the garage is rather poor, and I'm gonna be underneath the car for a period of time, so I want to get some lights. I went ahead and went with LED lights, knowing that there's a good possibility that these are going to be kind of dim, but they're also not going to get nearly as hot. At least I don't think they will. And if I'm going to be under the car, I don't want to accidentally rub my arm against a light and burn the crap out of it. And this I'll be fine as close quarters as it's going to be, along with obviously an extension cord just so I have some flexibility moving it around. Some of this is going to be more for later once my brake kits come in. I've got a flaring toolkit, which this is used for the rigid brake lines. Essentially, it prepares the endings of the metal tubing to connect to whatever joints or whatnot you've got underneath the vehicle when you're interfacing between the rigid lines and the flexible lines running straight to the wheel or to the brakes. So I'm going to be messing with the brake lines, so I needed a way to prepare those. I've got myself this Craftsman brake service set. We'll see how useful it is. What I didn't want to have happen is get the rebuild kits in for the brakes and then find out that I'm missing some weird part I need to get a spring on or something. So I bought this, and I assume it's going to be useful. It has various sockets and little knickknacks for getting brake pads and stuff out. This is, again, going to be for once the brakes come in themselves. This is a bleeding kit. Essentially, you run a tube up to your brake lines, and it goes out into this little cup. And the idea is you can fill this up with a little bit of brake fluid and pump the brakes, and it'll pump the air out, and because the tube is submerged, it won't suck any air back in. And it's a really nice, convenient way when you're by yourself to pump the lines and make sure there's no air. So as far as general stuff goes, I got some safety supplies and just some knickknacks that I figure I'll eventually need. Some safety goggles, dust mask because brake pads have asbestos and all sorts of good stuff, and dying doesn't sound great. Gloves because you never know. Human hands are soft, mushy things. Protect them, keep fatigue off from grip if I have to do a lot of work. And knives are always useful. I might need to size up lengths of lines or something, so it's good to have the tape measure, and obviously WD-40. This is an old car, there's going to be rust. So I'm kind of a dummy. I don't know anything about vehicles, any sort of car repair or anything. I drove a Fiero in high school, and I let the oil leak out and the engine seize. So I'm kind of starting at square zero. Education, therefore, is a very important part of this project. And so the main reference manuals I'm using for the Triumph is I went online and found an official repair guide for it, workshop manual. Details all sorts of fun systems and procedures. Also got a couple Haynes manuals. This is the Haynes Triumph Spitfire repair manual. It's got lots of pictures. It's organized well. It's meant for probably honestly someone a little higher level in repair work than me, but I'll make do, use the internet. And also a supplementary book specifically for restoring Spitfires, also made by Haynes. It's a little more general. It covers some other Triumph vehicles whose internals are similar and are from a similar time period. But what this offers that the Haynes guide itself doesn't offer is general overviews of processes. If you're going to do body work, what are the types of tools you're going to need? What are the nouns that are important? Provide some expectation and some context for doing this work. So these I've been reading and referencing, on top of also looking up several videos online of different people's restoration projects and a little bit of how does it work for brake systems and that sort of thing, just so I don't go in completely blind. So in addition to the small tools, I'm going to need to put the car up. And if you look around the garage, I don't have any lifts or anything. So the way I'm going to do it is essentially I got myself some 3-ton jack stands, 4 of them, one for each corner of the vehicle. And I got myself a 3-ton hydraulic jack. The idea is set that underneath a point on the frame, car goes up, jack stands get set underneath, either on the frames where I'm going to want to put it, then lower the vehicle down, and the jack stands hold it for the period of time you're actually doing your work. And then once it's up, use this guy and just slide underneath and do what I need to do. So here's the car itself. So that's what I'm working with. Next step, let's get the car up and let's get these rear wheels off and see what we're looking at. Okay, so I'm trying to do this from underneath the vehicle, so apologies for the bad camera work. It is what it is. So, what we have here is I've got my jack stands set up. I tried to get them set up on the frame in flat areas so that way they wouldn't slide. So you kind of put in the same spot over here on this side, and those are our other two jack stands. And when I was jacking it up, I was looking for spots where the frame looked really strong. You don't want to do it in the body because you don't want to twist the body. And you can see here, this has got the vertical element of the frame, and it's kind of a junction point. There's a lot of steel, a lot of welding here. So that's where I was going for my, where I put the hydraulic jack when I was lifting this. You can see me messing around a little bit. I was trying to find a good spot for everything. I want to make sure I didn't hit the frame or the exhaust system or something. And originally I had this jack over on this piece of frame here that's angling up, but I got kind of nervous about the idea of having one of the supports to keep the car from falling on me sitting on an incline. It might slip. So I went ahead and moved it back over here once I found an equivalent flat spot for that jack stand over there. So now we're under here. You kind of see there's some Ohio rust. There's the exhaust system. In future I might try getting this a little bit higher. This, I believe, based on where this is running, let me see. That's going up, and it goes up into, I'm following this line here. I think that's our brake line. The other is the fuel. I'm kind of also using my phone as a flashlight to see. Yeah, I think that's our brake line. Try to switch hands so that way I can use my right hand to point. So this, I think, is our brake line. Because actually no, I think that's fuel. See this line up here? Yeah, this guy right here. Maybe that's it. It's kind of hard to tell. I might have to just get the wheel off and take a look. Oh, there goes some change in my pocket. There's this line, whatever the hell it is, running all the way along the frame. Can I get a better angle? Maybe. And that runs all the way over. What I'm expecting to see down here is a brake line of some sort, fuel line, because the fuel tank sits right about here somewhere. It's right behind the seats, really. You can see the wheel from the back. So there's a lot of rust. I don't think it'll be hard for me to identify the lines and run them, because it looks like they're all just kind of clamped here. Yeah, it looks like just metal clamps, so I should be able just to actually remove that out. Like I can kind of move it with my finger, but not really. I have to flex that a little bit. That shouldn't be too bad. And I'm just gonna kind of get a peek at what else is down here. I'm cheating and using the phone to look where I can't. So, yeah, there's our rear differential. Yeah, no, looks nasty. Kind of like what I expected. Cool, that's gonna give power to the rear wheels. There's our exhaust running all the way up. So anyway, as you can see, I'm trying not to kick over everything. You can kind of get under there. I might need to jack it up more when I'm actually doing work under there, but this is my first time, so yeah, could have been worse. Let's get the wheel off and see what the drum brake looks like. So we just got the wheel off. There's the lug nuts. There's the wheel. Trying to get my glove on with one hand, it's just not working. So I noticed that, and to a lesser extent that, I think that's a spider egg that hatched. It's fucking nasty. So there's the drum, and yeah, as Steve promised, it's rusted. Interesting. And we can see back here, I wonder if it'll let me turn the light on while we're recording. Oh, it does. So there's the manual cabling for invoking the e-brake. And this is the hydraulic for the hydraulic braking system. Okay, this is the flexible tubing for the hydraulic system, and that connects up here, which, if I get the back, yeah, so you can see where it connects that terminal there, and then there's a line that runs, and that's gonna be your rigid brake line. And I don't know, yeah, you can see that's pretty rusted right there at that end, so I'm glad I'm gonna be replacing that. Then, yeah, there's just this nasty rust all over this. I mean, as I said, we're doing kind of, yeah, look at this off, ew. As I said, oh god, is that, I think it's more the same on each of these nuts. That's, oh god. Set your car outside for 10 years, it's gonna look great. So, as I was saying though, I had said that I'm going to be doing this in multiple parts, and that's absolutely true. Multiple phases. You know, just get it running to start. But like you look at stuff like the rust that's in this wheel well. None of it's rusted through, but it's all going to be ground out. I don't know, like, how deep does this go? I don't know yet. But like I see that, and stuff like this thing's got to get assembled. We'll probably just replace that shock, because that looks awful. So there's certainly going to be a strip it to frame rebuild in the future for this vehicle. I just don't see any way around it. There's just so much rust on this in various places. Like this frame, like you look at it even here, it still feels pretty solid. It's just got surface rust. So you probably want to grind it down, put some sort of undercoat or something on it, keep the rust out, paint it. I've seen some videos where they did that and it makes sense. Yeah, just needs some work. It wasn't that bad getting the wheel off. Yeah, I could go through taking the drum off, but I don't think I'm gonna get a whole lot out of that. Because I don't have any of the equipment to actually replace this drum. That's gonna be next weekend. But this is for me kind of a test run to see, you know, using the jacks. Can I get the wheel off okay? So anyway, that's what one of the rears looks like. I'm definitely gonna have to get underneath the vehicle. I'm gonna have to get the vehicle higher if I'm playing around with these. Cause like I can kind of reach back here for this, but I'm gonna have to get right under here. I wanna play with that brake line. All right, next up, let's see what one of the discs looks like. I'm kind of curious. So, after a little bit of elbow grease, we got the front passenger side wheel off. Thank you, the old trusty scrap piece of wood. Oops, shit. Yeah, it's the wheel cover and all the lug nuts. Don't lose those. Alright, so on the Triumph Spitfires, the front wheels use disc brakes as opposed to drum brakes. This is why you see the caliper here and the disc and all that fun stuff. And again, we have our flexible brake line that runs to the rigid brake line, which goes all the way back to the hydraulic system. And we have our, this is for the steering column. So shocks. The thing you'll notice is missing is a manual cable to override the hydraulics. It's because the e-brake only uses the rear brakes. And you can see there's certainly rust on this. It is a little easier to get to this just because it seems much more open, and the fact that we could really lift the entire bonnet up to get to this would help that a lot too. You can see where I put my jack stand. It's right there on the frame. Yeah, looks like it's going to be not too terrible getting at the front brakes. I mean, aside from the fact that this thing was just, it was a little bit stubborn. I was still able to get it, so I can't complain that much. That's all a lot more open. Looks like I'm getting the car up is key to getting the rear brakes done. And I think I'm just going to do some more exploration to see where all these lines run. I'm going to try to find some better pictures. Otherwise, it's just going to be, I get the car up higher, then I can get under there and really follow these lines through. But I'm not, it's going to end up being flexible line to a connector to a rigid steel line. And then you're going to have steel lines running. I think the way it works is there'll be a steel line running from each of the brakes to a central line that runs along. And you have some sort of like a junction, like a three-way junction where you see the two brake lines come together and then go to the one that stretches all the way up to the front. Eventually it's going to make its way to the cylinder, which actually, I'll show you that. One downside is sitting right next to the master cylinder for the brakes is the master cylinder for the clutch. And I don't remember which one's which because I'm a dummy. Let's see. Let's look this up. Sorry, still doing this one-handed. Why are you catching? Give me a sec. Try not to pinch my hands in this. I should get like a mount for my head for this. There. Come on. Come on. There we go. I'm definitely going to use both hands when I close this back up. All right, so there's our one rod that holds this whole thing up. So, as I was saying, there's two master cylinders. One for the brake line, hydraulic system, one for the clutch. I believe this is the brake master cylinder. This is the clutch. And yeah, okay. The lines hooked up on the side here. I was expecting something on the front similar to the clutch. Moving. Dot 3. Yeah, that's correct. Dot 3. Yeah. Not a complete dum-dum. And ultimately this runs back to cabling to the brake pedal. So what we're going to find is this brake line, you can see here, it goes to some junction here. It's got a couple. Sorry, I'm just educating myself. So there's two lines that run back into the master cylinder to here. And then the question is going to be, where do these guys run? I mean, they're going to run underneath the car and they're going to go to the brake system. But that's, in a very simple nutshell, what the brake system is. It's the lines, the brakes, the master cylinder. And when we eventually go to bleed the brakes, it's going to be putting fluid into this guy and then depressing the brake, which is going to cause the cylinder to move. It's going to cause fluid to get pushed through the lines and then out whatever cabling goes to the brakes. Like, for example, you can see this is our other side. This runs to this, which there's our electric, so that's way the hell over there. I'm kind of losing the brake. Let me see if I get an angle of light. I'm kind of abusing the camera a little bit. To see this, I'm trying to figure out where this is going. Anyway, I'm starting to get off topic and losing myself just looking at the car. Oh God. Okay, don't touch things. Unless you know what it is. That's got some corrosion on it, whatever the hell that is. What is that? It's a distributor. That's our generator. That's our oil filter. That's part of the electric. Is that might just be supplying power to the distributor cap, which which then goes to your spark plugs. But God, that looks nasty. Something must have leaked on there, and that must be doing something bad. Okay. Anyway. So, got a good look at what the brakes look like as a whole. Went through, tried out some of our jacks. So far, nothing looks amazingly complicated. It's just a machine. So, I can't go too much farther than this. Like, I could start exploring underneath, but I'm going to have to do that anyway next weekend, so I consider it a success. I managed to use the tools I have so far, and I kind of know what I'm looking at. Just to quiz myself a little bit farther because, you know, I'm already out here. So this looks like air filter. Yeah, the carburetor. Yep, it's carburetor. Our intake and exhaust manifolds. Our fan, which spins free. It's mechanical, it's not electric, so it runs with the motor, doesn't run independent. Our battery with our slightly rusted terminals, and one other thing I've seen in a couple of resto videos, this part of the body will generally get rusted, especially the battery well and that panel over there, and you can see where it's already rusted around where those master cylinders are. And one video I saw, the guy theorized that the reason for that was these air intake vents will also get water, you know, leak down into holes underneath here in the firewall and essentially just spread. And so you get low points, that sort of thing, you're just going to hold moisture and then it's just going to rust. I'm not going to do a whole lot about it because we're not doing body work right now, but that's a thing. And that manifold's got some rust on it. This is our windshield. I think that's our wiper fluid right here, and that's got a hole melted in the top. Okay, sure. Actually, on my list of things, I should add the wiper fluid system to that. It's not on there. Got like coolant stuff. Maybe that'll be step 2. I don't know. I should probably add it after I get the car turning over. But this guy needs some cleanup. Yeah. Anyhow, happy Sunday, I guess. This is my Sunday. So thanks for tagging along, and we'll see what happens next week.